Good afternoon, this is Joseph Long. I'm going to be discussing my paper, Controlling the Spigot, a study of Pakistan, India, and the conflict over the Indus River. Pakistan and India are two nations born of war. In fact, they've fought since the inception of the two countries in 1947, beginning with the First Kashmir War in 1947. And in 1965, they fought a second Kashmir War. In 1971, they fought over Bangladeshi independence, and in 1995 or 99, they fought a war in the Kargil region of Kashmir. Kashmir has been the scene of three of the major wars, and it has been fought over because it is a watershed for the Indus River. Both nations are now nuclear armed. India detonated its first 8-kiloton device in May of 1974. In May of 1998, they detonated 5 more nuclear devices. Pakistan answered by detonating 5 of their own on the 28th of May 1998, and just for good measure added a 6th one 2 days later on the 30th of May. This lends a certain degree of danger to any conflict that takes place between the two countries. It could go nuclear. In a sense, if it's fought over water rights, it could be the first nuclear water rights war, basically. Pakistan and India have an impasse over water rights. Precisely, Pakistan's concerns involve 2 major tributaries to the Indus River that originate in India. First, the Sutlej River and its tributary, the Beas, the Chenab and its tributaries, the Ravi and the Jhelum rivers. India has built numerous dams on these rivers in the Kashmir province and in their own provinces, adding to Pakistan's concerns that India may use these dams to restrict the flow of water into the Indus River Valley. In 1960, the World Bank brokered an agreement between the two nations which allocated water rights, provided international financing, and a resolution mechanism for the two countries. Known as the Indus Water Treaty, it provides India with rights and obligations, in particular exclusive rights to the use of the tributaries of the Chenab River and its use of the Indus, the Jhelum, and the Chenab rivers as needed. But India must adhere to specific timelines for notifications of new water projects such as hydroelectric dams. In 1999, Pakistan protested the Bangalir Dam project, which is on the Chenab River in Kashmir. Pakistan protested under Article 9 of the Indus Water Treaty, stating that basically India did not give Pakistan ample notice of building this project and what it would mean to Pakistan. A neutral independent investigator was appointed from Switzerland who investigated the project for over 20 months in the 2000s. In 2007, he published his findings and said that India had full riparian rights to the river, the Chenab River, and that they did not violate the Indus Water Treaty. Naturally, this left the Pakistanis very angry, and for the average Pakistani on the street, their opinion of India went down quite a bit, and they believe India is one of their primary threats, actually is their primary threat to their security. The U.S. water experience, intelligence community assessment on global water security cites that the Indus River Valley is one of the river basins with the greatest potential for conflict within the next 10 years. And of course, they cite the fact that both nations involved in this conflict are nuclear armed. And this is by far not the only place in the world that this ICA cites as one of the major areas of conflict. There are plenty more, but this is the one I'm focusing on. The U.S. Water Partnership was commissioned last year as well, and its idea is to unite and mobilize U.S. expertise, resources, and ingenuity and make them available to countries around the world like India and Pakistan to help solve their water crisis problems. As far as the United Nations is concerned, in July of 2010, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution that formally recognizes the human right to water and sanitation. However, not all countries consider the right to water and sanitation, indeed the right to food and that sort of thing, as a basic human right. These are not the traditional human rights that many nations would consider rights, such as the right to, life, liberty, that sort of thing. However, most countries consider the right to life to include the right to be able to eat and drink and that sort of thing to sustain life. Nevertheless, 44 nations, including the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, abstained from voting on this resolution. It still passed, of course, and its provisions are legally binding. It calls on nations to refrain from interfering directly or indirectly with the right, to ensure that third parties do not interfere or violate the right, and engage in a positive state action to ensure that the right is universally enjoyed. Solutions from academia. Peak water, for example, is a term coined very recently. It usually refers to peak oil. M. King Hubbard developed the first models depicting peak oil in the mid-1950s. He developed the Hubbard curve and applied it to oil and correctly predicted that the United States would reach peak oil in the 1970s. The curve, though, has been applied to freshwater resources. Peter Glick of the Pacific Institute gave us 3 scenarios of peak water: peak renewable water, which refers to rivers, lakes, and streams; peak non-renewable water, which is groundwater, aquifers; and then peak ecological water, which is wetlands and marshes. They also put out soft water solutions, calling for drip irrigation, low-flow toilets, and desalination plants to be built. In short, what Glick and his colleagues called for is a more efficient, economical use of water, to conserve water, to not use water for things. If we don't need potable water to flush our toilets, why do we use it? If we don't need potable water for irrigation, why do we use potable water for that? In other words, have water purified to a certain degree as to what it's needed for. Obviously, drinking water and water for cooking and cooking and other things like that, human consumption needs to be potable. But water for sanitation purposes, water for irrigation, it does not need to be potable. Many countries do this today, including Israel. Solutions for Pakistan. Well, there needs to be greater cooperation between the two nations. They need to invest in their water infrastructure rather than nuclear weapons. And they need to be brought to the table and convinced to do this. They need to rewrite and amend the Indus Water Treaty using Article 7 of the treaty, which focuses on future cooperation. Made to make the arrangement 100% transparent so that both sides can see what's going on as far as water projects are concerned. No need to keep a dam a secret. And cooperation on mutually beneficial hydroelectric dam projects. Both nations could invest in the same project. Now, obviously, India has more money than Pakistan and therefore has more monetary resources to throw at a hydroelectric dam project. But international cooperation and joint usage of a particular dam would be a step in the right direction. Individual solutions for both countries. Well, Pakistan needs to update and upgrade their water infrastructure, their wastewater treatment, to modernize their irrigation systems. They need to promote governmental transparency among the people. People need to be able to see how their money is being spent. Build more barrage dams to take advantage of the monsoon and glacial meltwaters, and desalination plants in the southern delta to avoid overtapping the groundwater aquifer, which, if it becomes overtapped, would become the salinity of which would make it undrinkable for people of Baluchistan and the lower Sindhi province. India, for its part, needs to update and upgrade its water infrastructure, its wastewater treatment, and modernize its irrigation. It also needs to curtail the building of hydroelectric dams on the Indus River. This includes barrage dams. And there needs to be strict water conservation. And both countries need to make more efficient use of their water. This ends my presentation. Thank you.